Back to the cheesecake. We're talking about cheesecake today, Chelsea. Jesus, stop distracting me. What's going on, y'all? It's Justin, and today on Copycat Kitchen, we are dealing with one of the biggest names in fast casual food. And by biggest, I don't just mean famous, I also mean like size of the restaurant, size of the menu, size of the desserts. That's right, it's Cheesecake Factory, y'all. And we are going to be making their original cheesecake with glazed strawberries. This is a touchstone for almost everybody I know. Entering into that weird, like Grecian, faux Egyptian, medieval restaurant, having a dinner that's the size of a, like, I don't know, like a Frisbee, and then digging into an enormous, like, 1,000-calorie dessert that is cheesecake. It's iconic, and we're gonna recreate it. I am psyched. Let's get into it. I straight up don't know how to close this box. This is so hard. I feel like a 5-year-old.
You've tried doing
Whoa, wait. No. The 3 things we need to recreate Cheesecake Factory's iconic cheesecake is first, sour cream. That's not only gonna add moisture, but it's also gonna mirror that distinctive, slightly tangy taste in the cake. Secondly, we're not gonna use too much sugar. This is not a cloyingly sweet dessert. We are gonna be focusing on rich, luscious creaminess, so only a cup of sugar. And then third, we want those glazed strawberries. They're gonna add a beautiful pop of bright red color and also some fruity acidity that's gonna balance out the dessert really, really well. Let's get started. Any half-decent, self-respecting cheesecake is gonna have a graham cracker crust. I've seen people do crazy things with like a shortbread crust or an Oreo crust, but this cake, as well as the classic Cheesecake Factory cheesecake crust, is going to be made with graham crackers, butter, and sugar. It's really easy, especially when you use a food processor. In case you don't have a food processor, you can just put these in a big, strong plastic bag and crush them with either a meat tenderizer or a rolling pin, but I think that the food processor helps to get a uniform crumb that you would see in the restaurant. So the crust on a Cheesecake Factory cheesecake comes up pretty high, almost like 3/4, in some of the cases, all the way to the top of the cake. So we're gonna use 2 entire sleeves of graham crackers. That's 9 graham crackers total, not the halvesy little guys, whole 18 graham crackers. Then we're going to use 12 tablespoons of melted butter and 6 tablespoons of sugar to add a little bit more of a sweetness and to give body and structure to our crust. You want to process until we get a texture that kind of resembles like wet sand, something that can be sculpted like a sandcastle, or in our case, into our springform pan. The only piece of maybe like niche baking equipment, though if you don't have one, you should probably buy one because they're really useful, that you're gonna need for this cheesecake recipe is a springform pan. You will not be able to dig your cheesecake out of a regular cake pan, I promise. For this recipe, we recommend an 8-inch pan for a taller cake and 9-inch for a little bit shorter. We're gonna give this a quick spray with cooking spray just to really make sure that we can release the spring form and get the cake out when it's done. And we're going to then press our crust into the sides and the bottom of our cake pan. It's gonna come up pretty high, maybe like 2-3 inches on the sides, but we want to do that because that's how the cake looks in the display case at Cheesecake Factory. It came together super quickly, and now it's pressed into our pan, nice and pressed evenly. Spend the extra 2-3 minutes to make sure it's evenly distributed and it's all the same height. It'll really make a difference in the final presentation of the cake. Half of what I love about Cheesecake Factory is how beautiful all those cakes look. So I'm gonna set this aside and we're gonna get started on our filling. What's amazing about this part of the cheesecake recipe is just like we were able to do the crust in the food processor all at once, no extra bowls, we're gonna be able to build the entire filling in this mixer. You could do it in a big bowl with a hand mixer, but this is gonna be a lot easier. Before we do anything, before we even start mixing, before we make the crust, before you even start thinking about making a cheesecake, you're gonna wanna take out all of the ingredients for this filling. We want the eggs, sour cream, and cream cheese to be at room temperature. That's gonna make the mixing of this batter way easier, and it's gonna ensure that we have a smooth batter that's pourable and won't have any lumps or any clumpage in the cake when it's done. First, we're gonna go in with our very soft cream cheese and we're gonna whip that 2 to 3 minutes until it's nice and airy and totally flexible and movable with a spatula. Then we're gonna add our sugar. We're gonna cream that together until it's one combined mixture. Then we're gonna go in 1 egg at a time, making sure each egg is totally mixed in before we go in with our next. Then in with the sour cream, add some moisture, some body, a little bit of that tang, some vanilla, and then the dry ingredients, which is just 2 tablespoons of flour and a pinch of salt. We're gonna pour our filling into our crust, then get it into a water bath and into our 325-degree oven and bake for an hour and a half. Baking cheesecake can be pretty finicky. Oftentimes it can be overbaked, crumbly, or crack. And the best way to avoid that, if you're not an expert baker, like I'm not an expert baker, is to use a water bath. Basically, we're going to put our cake in a bigger baking dish and fill it up about halfway up the cake tin with boiling water. The steam created by that water bath is gonna help to keep our cake totally moist, perfectly cooked, and to ensure that no cracking happens on top. Technically, this isn't the original Cheesecake Factory cheesecake. That one has a sour cream topping, but instead, we're gonna focus on the strawberry cheesecake. It is the most iconic cheesecake flavor, not just at the factory, but anywhere you can get cheesecake. The acidity, the fruitiness just perfectly balance out the creaminess of the cheesecake itself. And to start, we're gonna make a slurry out of warm water and cornstarch. The strawberries that they put on their cheesecake at the factory are whole. So we're gonna just take off the tops and add that into a saucepan with our slurry, about a half a lemon worth of juice and a 1/4 cup of sugar. We're gonna get this over medium heat and bring it up to a simmer, and then we're just gonna cook for 3 to 4 to 5 minutes, kind of just to your desired consistency and texture. I like to be able to drizzle a little bit of the sauce over, but some people want that like thick glaze over the strawberries. So the longer you cook it, the more the cornstarch will thicken the mixture. The sugar that we added will help to draw out the natural juices and the natural sugar in the strawberries and will create like a hyper concentrated strawberry syrup that will glaze our strawberries. Strawberries also have a little bit of natural acidity, but by adding lemon, we just bring that out a little bit more and just add a little bit more tartness to our syrup. These are perfect. They look unbelievable, and it's like a punch of strawberry just to the nose and even just a little bit of a taste. A little bit of sugar goes a really long way, and that lemon accentuates the strawberries really, really well. I'm gonna let these cool to room temperature, then get them into the fridge until we're ready to top our cheesecake. So you can see that we're basically done. When I jiggle the cake, just that inside center is really jiggling a lot. The edges are pretty set. This might go for another like 5 minutes, but we're basically done. To cool the cake, we need to bring it down totally to room temperature before we even bother putting it in the fridge. And to do that gradually so that the cake comes down and there's no sinkage, there's no crackage, we're gonna actually turn off of our oven and then just crack the door open. I like to stick a spoon in just to make sure it's definitely gonna be open. And we're gonna let our oven sit like that for at least an hour until our cake is totally room temp. To get our cheesecake out, we're just gonna take a butter knife or a spatula and run it along the edge of our crust, pop open the spring, and we should have a gorgeous uniform cheesecake. I pushed a little tiny hole in it, so please, for my benefit, like just pretend like it's not there. Like don't write a comment that's saying that like, wow, you really put a crack in that cheesecake. Secret real behind the scenes, I've made like 3 cheesecakes over the past 24 hours and I can't handle it. I burnt 1, I cracked 2. Just let me have this, ignore it. Just look, wow, beautiful. But just ignore that part, but then, whoa, oh no, perfect. So we're not gonna top this entire thing with strawberries because on each individual slice, they dollop a couple of beautiful plump strawberries and then they do some nice swirls of whipped cream that I made. It's honestly not that hard of a recipe. It just takes a little bit of time. Yeah, you gotta let it sit in the oven for an hour to cool perfectly, then you gotta let it chill, but then you get this really, really awesome result with not a ton of ingredients, nothing crazy special or expensive. That's why, like, it is, I'm gonna say it. It's the people's cake, baby. People's cake. It's honest, this is really, really good. It's not too sweet. I'm gonna try it with this perfect strawberry on it. I know that this is a cheesecake video, but that strawberry, just that little acidity and that little strawberry note really helps. And cooking them in the sugar helps soften them up. And the cake itself, I mean, just look at it. It's perfectly creamy, luscious, and really awesome crust that's like, has a good texture and a good sweetness as well from the sugar. All around, I'm pretty psyched about this. And I think if this was placed in front of anybody at Cheesecake Factory, they may not be able to tell the difference. If you like the copycat videos like this, first thing I'm gonna ask you to do is to like and subscribe, and then you're gonna go on over to delish.com for more copycat recipes just like this. Until next time, y'all.